Yes, hi. So I'm here since almost half a year now. No, a little bit more than half a year. But before I came here, I was actually working as a group lead for a project or for a research division in Aachen at the university clinic. And one of our projects was the so-called Icarus project. It's called Inverted Classroom Meets Augmented Reality in Animal Surgery. Let me just show you really quick what this was, because this was actually performed by the IMCAR, which is a Institute for Molecular Cardiology Research. And first, Aachen actually has a very nice university clinic. So as you can see, it's beautiful. But it's actually one of the largest hospital buildings in Europe. And besides having about 10,000 inpatients every day, we also have a very large amount of research going on. And in this case, IMCAR is one of these large research institutes. And as I said, they focus on the molecular cardiology, which means that they often rely on animal models for their research, because much of what we are using today in pharmacology has to be developed first of course, in animal models. So animal models can be actually quite broad. So you can start with very small ones like fruit flies, of course. Then there's the medium-sized ones like the Western claw frog. And for those who don't like blood, please close your eyes. This will happen multiple times during this during this presentation, of course, mice. So mice are much more similar than the other ones. So for example, the fruit fly has a single heart chamber, which is actually like a tube which pumps the blood. The claw frog has 3 heart chambers, 2 atriums, 1 ventricle. So it gets closer to our human heart, but it's still not there. So which is why we often rely on mammals, so in this case, mice or rats, to mimic the behavior of the human heart when, for example, performing surgery or applying pharmacological treatment or placing stents, for example. And this is where then the Icarus project came in, because I would assume if I give everybody here one mouse, a surgery table, and I ask you to place a stent in a mouse heart, I would guess that we lose a lot of mice. And this is happening quite often, because for all of these projects, you have to have researchers who are trained to perform these surgeries. And actually, the German Ministry for Research and Education has a special track to reduce the amount of mice that are used in laboratory work, which is called the 3R initiative. So there's another 3 Rs, now we are at 10. And the aims are replace, reduce, and refine. So the first goal is always to replace animals by something else, which can be, for example, growing cells by yourselves. That's quite difficult, especially when you want to look at an organ that is so complex like the heart. Growing a heart, I would say it will take about 20 to 30 years before we can actually grow a full heart organ. So in our case, we focus more on the reduce, so use less of these mice, and refine. So if you use them, try to put as little burden on these animals as possible. And this is why we asked ourselves, how can we integrate, first of all, inverted classrooms, so an e-learning concept, and augmented reality in the animal surgery? And how can we use that to reduce the amount of mice that is used there? And I would assume that most of you are a little bit more interested in the augmented reality than the inverted classroom setting here. So which is why we have had augmented reality microscopes built. So what you see here is a standard microscope. If you operate under this on a mouse, you're quite limited in how you can teach. Because either you are the teacher, so you operate, and then you can have sometimes you can have a camera mount on this microscope. You can maybe have a second person with a second eyepiece watching, and you're also very limited in space. So it's very difficult if, for example, a trainee is operating, you cannot intervene immediately to show something. And this is why we built these little guys, 4 of them. And they are actually augmented reality microscopes. How they work is that we have our microscope body. Below we have 2 cameras, then a display inside, a lens system to adjust, for example, for different, towards the user with the eyes, and then the eyepiece. We wanted to have a look and feel that is almost identical to a regular microscope, so that if you train on this device, you should be able to also perform surgery on a regular microscope. Now, the nice thing about this is that not only can we manipulate what the person sees, because we have the camera feed, and we stream this basically back into the display, so we can add annotation, for example, but we can also feed it to any other sync. So we can, for example, put it to a TV, to have multiple people look at the same time what someone is doing. And this is our goal, and then this is hopefully also what your goal will be when you join our project, is we want to reduce the amount of mice used in training through, first of all, direct feedback to the surgeon. So we want to have someone, a supervisor, who can see what a person is operating on, be able to intervene directly into the view path of this person, so that you can actually, so that you don't have to stop someone, tell them, oh, look up, stop your surgery, I have to tell you something, because that will interrupt their process, and you might lose an animal just because someone is not paying attention anymore to the animal. So we want to get direct feedback into the view path. Then we want to be able to better observe these surgeries for both sides. So both for the person who is supervising, but also if an expert is operating, you could stream this operation live in 3D if you want to a full audience of people. And last, we also want to improve the retrospective assessment of surgery procedures. So let's assume that you have done your surgery. You can always go back, of course, and watch the videos. Also some high-level design from my side. So we have these 4 microscopes. These are in a wet lab setting. So, and we want to have a supervisor who is able to use a tablet, who can see all the video that is streamed from these 4 devices and can create annotations just on his tablet, which will then be streamed back into the eyepieces. And on the other side, what I want to have is a wall-mounted screen, where, let's assume you have more than 4 people within a training seminar. You can also show them what the other people are doing, what they might be doing good, what they might be doing bad. And of course, then what will you get? Of course, you will get 2 of these microscopes, so 50% of the worldwide supplies of augmented reality microscopes will be yours. You get an iPad, so everything that you should need to at least get this started. I hope that we will find a wall-mounted TV somewhere in our department. Of course, you get the code for the microscoping computers. There's a little problem there because this is Windows. So unfortunately, you will not be able to use Swift out of the box. But you might have to work together with 2 developers who are currently Hiwis in Aachen, who have developed this code to get the streaming of these videos and the annotations right. And of course, those of you who want to will have the option to join one of the seminars in February, not as a participant, but at least to watch how these microscopes will end up in use. Challenges ahead, as I said, we want to stream high frame rate, high resolution images from PC to iPad, which I'm sure you will be able to do, but I still think it's a challenge if you work between 2 different operating systems here. Then we have the real-time communication of these markers, because these markers have to be delivered on time. The person cannot wait for 3 or 4 seconds, because you might want to deliver the exact moment of a heartbeat. So that you get your marker in the right place at the right time. And then, of course, you have to have a high user experience. If you block the view of a person while he's operating, I would assume that that is not going to go well in the long run. So there has to be a lot of investigations on how can you actually deliver these markers or these annotations. So, thank you for your attention. If you want to try these microscopes, we will have one at our table later during the buffet. And then, yeah, please help us make our AR laboratory a reality.